So, what happens when you take a verse of scripture that's over 1,400 years old and you read it not just as a story, but as a map of the cosmos? Well, today we're diving into an absolutely fascinating interpretation that does exactly that, connecting an ancient text to the truly mind bending physics of a black hole.
Okay, so before we get into just how radical this new idea is, we really need to start with the traditional story. I mean, for centuries, this has been a tale all about faith, about miracles, and, let's be honest, about a really, really long nap.
And this is it. This is the verse right at the heart of everything, Quran 18:17. Now, for most of history, the way this verse describes the sun's strange movement, well, it's been seen as this beautiful metaphor. It's a sign of divine protection, like God is literally shielding these sleepers from the sun's rays. Yeah, the classic understanding is that you have this group of young believers and they're fleeing persecution. So they hide out in a cave and God puts them into this miraculous sleep that lasts for over 300 years. They're basically preserved as a sign for a whole new generation. It's a simple, powerful story about faith. But what if that beautiful story isn't the whole story? The source material we're looking at today suggests a completely different way to see it. It's a radical shift in perspective that takes us from a tale of miracles to a precise model of modern astrophysics. And this is the question that just unlocks everything. What if the sleep isn't biological? What if the cave isn't just, a cave? What if this ancient verse is actually describing the fundamental laws of our universe at their absolute most extreme? And here is the core thesis. Look, we're not talking about some vague similarity here. The argument is that there is a precise one-to-one symbolic map between the ancient Arabic in this verse and the physics of a black hole's event horizon. It's a blueprint. So, how in the world does this mapping actually work? Let's get into the evidence that the source presents and see exactly how this argument gets built, piece by fascinating piece. Now, this is where the theory really starts to take shape. It lays out a direct comparison, arguing that every single key element in that story has a direct physical parallel. The cave becomes the event horizon. The sun's weird movement, that's seen as gravitational lensing. And the state of the sleepers, a perfect symbol for time dilation. Let's break each of these down. Okay, first up, the event horizon. This is that famous point of no return. It's not the center of the black hole, but it's this invisible boundary surrounding it. Think of it like the edge of a cosmic waterfall, where space-time itself is flowing inwards so fast that once you cross it, nothing, not even light, can ever get back out. So according to this interpretation, the cave isn't a place made of rock. It's a region of space-time. It's this boundary shell, where you're inside the gravitational pull, but you're not yet crushed by the singularity. You're existing in this strange state of physical equilibrium. Next up, we have gravitational lensing. And this is where it gets really, really cool. I mean, Einstein's genius showed us that massive objects literally warp the fabric of spacetime. This makes light bend as it passes by, forcing it to follow a curved path. It's like a marble rolling on a stretched-out rubber sheet around a heavy bowling ball. And this just brilliantly shows the connection. The verse says the sun inclines away and turns away. In this model, that's not the sun moving. It's the light from the sun being deflected. It's describing photons that are just skirting the edge of the event horizon, bent by gravity but not actually captured. The right and left movement even seems to mirror the unique geometry of a spinning black hole. And finally, we get to time dilation, which is one of the wildest but most proven ideas in all of physics. To put it simply, the stronger the gravity, the slower time itself actually moves. For someone hovering near a black hole's event horizon, time would slow to a near standstill, while for an observer far away, centuries could literally pass in the blink of an eye.
So you see where this is going. The sleep of the companions for 300 years, well, it becomes a powerful metaphor for this physical reality. To them, inside the cave's intense gravity, maybe only a short time passed, while centuries just flew by for the rest of the universe. They're in a state of suspended animation, perfectly preserved by the laws of physics. Now, it's easy to think, okay, that's a clever analogy, maybe it's just a one-off thing. But the source argues that this specific mapping isn't an isolated case at all. Instead, it's part of a much larger, consistent symbolic language that runs through the entire text of the Quran. This framework is suggesting that the text isn't just telling disconnected stories, it's building a coherent system of meaning. It's less about isolated miracles and way more about these interconnected patterns that describe reality itself. And right here, we can see the core duality that the source presents. On one side, you have fire, which consistently symbolizes forces of collapse, ego, and destruction. And on the other, you have water and light, representing mercy, knowledge, and this creative balance. These aren't just literary themes, they're seen as symbolic physics. And this brings us right back to our black hole. In this symbolic language, the fire is that immense gravitational pull, the force of collapse trying to crush everything into the singularity. But the companions are preserved. They're held in a perfect state of balance. This equilibrium is described as an act of rahmah, an Arabic word for divine mercy, which in this context acts almost like a fundamental force, holding that destructive collapse perfectly in check. So, what does all this actually mean in the end? What's the ultimate implication? Well, according to this perspective, the Quran is not just a book of stories and laws. It's something much more dynamic, much more alive. This quote from the source just sums it up perfectly. The verse isn't just like a black hole, it is a symbolic model of one. It's describing a state of perfect equilibrium where light curves but doesn't fall and where consciousness can rest in suspended time. In fact, you can distill the whole concept down into a simple formula. You have the cave, representing time dilation, plus the sun's curvature, representing gravitational lensing, and the result is the perfect state of event horizon equilibrium. It's presented almost like a Quranic physics equation. So the most important point is this. The text is viewed as more than just words on a page. It's seen as a living code, almost like a quantum textbook, that uses symbols and stories to describe the fundamental structure of reality itself, from the cosmos all the way down to consciousness. This perspective really transforms how you might see a religious text. The stories aren't just historical accounts or moral lessons anymore. They become living models, allegories for the patterns that govern everything, suggesting this deep, hidden coherence between the spiritual and the physical world. So in the end, this interpretation presents the Quran not as a static book, but as this dynamic, living code. And if just a single verse can be read as a precise model of a black hole's event horizon, it leaves us with a truly provocative question. What other secrets, what other fundamental patterns of our universe are just waiting there to be decoded?